And understand that there's an urgency here, and that if you're not practicing something now, if you're not aware, if you don't have a path towards something better, you're rotting on the vine, and the day of reckoning will come at some point, and it will be painful. You're not going to feel it suddenly. It'll be slow, but it'll come, and it won't be good. And it doesn't mean like every day has to be a grind and has to be awful. Oftentimes, if you're in a bad job, just being aware that you now have a plan is enough to lift you out of that depression. Okay, I'm working at Burger King, but I know I want to get to this community college and get a degree here after I save enough money. Having a goal is like, will change you completely from being depressed or not taking care of yourself to being energized and moving in the right direction.
Let's start out by writing about what I'm struggling with. And so that's where the whole theme of hope came in. I didn't know what to hope for anymore. And that, strangely enough, that caused me to be just as depressed as low points in my life, where I had no money and my girlfriend left me, and I also had nothing to hope for. And so it made me realize that, you know, what's going on in the material world is totally, you know, not the point. What matters is, do we have that vision of hope in our mind? Do we see a possible future for us to step into that will make our lives better?
I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, get caught up in these big ideas or big visions when they're in a small place to start and when they feel like it's too unattainable. And so I always talk about starting with something simple, the next step. And so for me, the next step was to get off the couch and feel like I was an adult. Right. Because I felt like a child eating macaroni and cheese. And that was the first step for me, was to, what do I need to do to make enough money to get to the next step?
Think about the person you would most like to be in life. Maybe it's one of your contemporaries, maybe it's somebody a little older, but pick out the person you admire the most, the person that you'd change places with if you could. And then write down why you admire them. Just put it on a piece of paper. And then figure out the person that you would least like to change places with you. Who really turns you off? Who do you find repulsive? And list the reasons why that person turns you off so much. And put those down on the other side of the paper. And then look at that list. And you'll find that everything on the left-hand side, what you admire in other people, the qualities they bring to life, cheerfulness, generosity, all kinds of things, you'll find those are things you can do yourself. It's very simple. You got to apply yourself, but the habits you form in doing that early on will carry you through life. And on the other hand, you'll find that the things that make people repulsive, selfishness, obnoxiousness, all these things, egotism, are things that no one has to have. If you find those in yourself, you can get rid of them as long as you get rid of them early. So you write down a list of what you admire, what you find contemptible. Behavior becomes a habit. So if you do that, 2 or 3 years from now, if you go through the same exercise, you'll find out that the person you admire the most is yourself. But it's not a bad thing. I mean, you want to be somebody you like, and you don't want to be somebody that you dislike. And form those habits early. You basically can't miss.
Whether it's getting my own apartment, hitting a certain amount of subscribers, making my company a certain amount of sales, whatever the next level is, losing 20 pounds, it's being clear on that vision and getting grounded on why I want to achieve that vision. And I think if my vision is to make a lot of money, then what's the purpose of that? If it's just to make money, to attract women, or for credibility or whatever it is, then it's probably not going to be as a clear of a path. It's not going to be as smooth. When I'm grounded on my principles of why do I really want to make this happen? Why is it going to serve me, and how am I going to impact the most amount of people by doing this?
Knock that thing out of your brain that you think you know what the universe is like, that you understand the galaxies and what's going on. You really don't have any idea. You need to get back that sense of wonder and excitement and openness and flexibility of mind. If that's all that you have, you're just going to be a child, and children don't make anything. They don't invent an iPhone, and children don't create a movie. You'll just be like a child. No, you have to have your skill, your talent, and all of that. But if you're able to maintain a fluid mind, I call it synth mastery. a yoga for the mind. How do you literally stretch your mind so it becomes as flexible as, so you can do a down dog mentally. And negative capability is rule number one for being a creative person. And if you don't follow anything else in mastery, that would be enough. Negative capability comes from the great poet John Keats in the 19th century. He was trying to understand why Shakespeare was so creative, and he decided that he had negative capability. And it's basically the ability to keep two ideas that contradict each other in your mind without feeling uncomfortable, without having to come to a conclusion. You can think about something without rushing to judgment and conclusion. You can be in the moment. You can say, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. And you don't have to decide whether it's A, B, or C. You're open to adopting 3 or 4 different viewpoints.
For you to have any vision of hope in the future, something needs to be better or worthwhile. Like, it needs to be valuable.
The life you're looking to create. And
it can be anything. It can be helping out the kids at the local school. It can be building a company. It can be buying a new car, whatever. You need to decide that something is more valuable than what you have today. And oddly, a lot of people struggle with that. They don't know which way to go. They don't know what a better life would look like.
Or they want to do so many things that they do nothing.
And so they don't go anywhere. So it's like you got to pick that one thing that is kind of the central value in your life. And then the second component is that you need to feel that you're capable of getting there. So it's like if I decided that the goal of my life is to be, the prime minister of Czechoslovakia, that's not going to happen. That's just unrealistic. And so if you have this vision that is just completely detached from reality, and you see this a lot, people will pick goals or dreams that are just so out there that it gives them an excuse to not do anything. It's like, oh, well, there's no way I can make it anyway, so I might as well just. So it's about finding a vision that can kind of bring both of those things together. It's about being realistic about who you are, where you are, and then also having making a solid decision about like what is better in the world, what is a worthwhile pursuit.
We want to believe that there are shortcuts to success. We want to believe we can take a drug or we can do something that'll make it quick and easy. But the truth is, it takes grit. It takes persistence. It's the people like Thomas Edison, who had no education, who came from a very poor background, who really end up making it in life because they are persistent and they don't settle for anything remotely mediocre. That's what ends up making you get ahead in the world, and it's really democratic. And that's what's so great about it. And that's what's so great about the world that we live in. We live in a time where things are not purely democratic, don't get me wrong, but they are much more democratic than they were in the past. A meritocracy. It's not about if you went to Yale or if your daddy is rich. It's about you, and you have the material to get there. And one last thing I'll say on that is one of the people I interviewed for Mastery, Paul Graham, who has a company called Y Combinator in Silicon Valley, which is a sort of a training school for people who want to create a startup. He said that there is no correlation between where people went to university and their success at Y Combinator. There's zero correlation. Whether you went to Yale or you went to Dallas Community College, there's equal chance that you will be successful. I thought that was an amazing thing to hear, and he's seen that in action with tens of thousands of people